The night was cold, and the small alien girl sat beside the broken wall of an abandoned house. She pulled her thin arms around her body. Trying to keep herself warm, her stomach ached with hunger. But she had no strength to move. Her hair was tangled, her clothes torn, and her eyes empty. The people of the village passed by her. Some laughed at her weakness. Others spat on the ground near her. "Look at her," one alien man sneered. "She is nothing but dirt," another voice followed. "She should have died long ago. Why is she still here?" They treated her like she was not alive, like she was less than an animal. The girl wanted to cry, but she had no tears left. She had begged for food in the market, but everyone pushed her away. Some children threw stones at her, shouting, "Worthless, worthless." The stones hurt, but the words hurt more. She lowered her head and whispered to herself, "Why was I born? Why am I still breathing?" Her body was weak, her skin pale, her bones showed under her skin. She searched the ground for scraps, anything she could eat. Even rotten bread would have been a gift. But the villagers guarded their food. They would rather feed their animals than give her a single bite as the sun began to set. Shadows stretched across the dirt road. The girl shivered harder. Darkness meant colder nights. She knew she might not survive until morning. She curled into a small ball, trying to disappear. Her lips were dry, her throat burned with thirst. In the distance, laughter echoed. The villagers gathered around fires, eating warm meals. The smell of roasted meat filled the air. It made her stomach twist painfully. She imagined herself holding a bowl of soup, but it was only a dream. Reality was harsh, and dreams were cruel. Just when she thought the night would end, like every other, something changed. Footsteps approached. It's not quick like the villagers who ignored her, but steady, slow. Someone stopped near her broken wall. She froze, her body trembling. She was afraid another cruel word, another kick. But instead, a voice spoke, calm and deep. "Are you still alive?" It was not mocking, not hateful. The girl raised her head slightly. Her eyes widened. For the first time, she saw not another alien, but a human. He stood tall, his coat heavy against the cold. His eyes looked at her, not with disgust, but with something strange, something she had never seen: pity. She blinked, not sure if it was real. Maybe hunger was making her imagine things. Humans were rare in this place, and most people feared them, but this one bent down, closer to her level. He reached into his bag and pulled out something small. It was bread, fresh bread. The warm smell reached her nose, and her mouth watered. Her weak hands trembled. She did not believe he would give it to her. Maybe he only wanted to tease her like the others. But he held the bread out and said softly, "Eat." His voice was steady, no anger, no laughter. The girl stared at the bread, then at him. "Why?" Her voice cracked. It was the first word she had spoken in days. He did not answer with words at first, only placed the bread in her hands. Her fingers closed around it, rough and shaking. Slowly, she lifted it to her lips and took a bite. The taste exploded in her mouth. Warm, soft, real food. Her eyes filled with tears. She thought she had lost forever. The human watched quietly. He did not rush her. He let her eat, bite by bite, until her body stopped shaking so violently. When she finally lowered the bread, she whispered, "No one. No one gives me food. They should." The man replied firmly, "You are alive. That is enough reason." Her heart beat fast. She did not know why. But her chest felt lighter. For the first time in her life, someone saw her not as dirt, not as worthless, but as a living being. The villagers who saw this from a distance laughed again. "Look at the human," one muttered, "feeding garbage." But the human ignored them. His eyes stayed on the girl, calm, steady, strong. The night was still cold, But beside him, she felt something new. A small spark of warmth lit inside her chest. Maybe, just maybe, she would survive this night. The girl sat in silence, holding the last piece of bread in her hands. Her lips still tasted the warmth of food. Her body still shook, but this time not only from cold. It was something else, something she had never felt before. She did not know if it was hope or fear. The human crouched beside her. His eyes studied her face, not with mockery, but with thought. He could see how thin she was, how close to death she had come. Her skin was pale, her cheeks hollow. Her clothes barely covered her body, torn and filthy. He knew she would not last many more nights like this. "Can you stand?" he asked. His voice was calm, deep, not demanding. The girl hesitated. Her body wanted to trust the bread in her hands, but her heart screamed with suspicion. No one had ever helped her before, not once. Why would a human care when even her own people treated her like trash? She tried to move, but her knees buckled. Her legs felt like sticks without strength. The human reached out quickly and held her before she could fall. The sudden touch made her flinch. She gasped and pulled back, her eyes wide with fear. Her lips whispered, "Don't hurt me." His hand froze. His face tightened for a moment, as if the words had pierced something inside him. Slowly, he let her lean against the wall again. He did not force her. His voice was steady when he said, "I will not hurt you, little one. I came to help." She stared at him, searching his face for lies. But his eyes were clear, steady, his hand lowered to his side, no threat in his stance. For a long moment, she only breathed. Then she whispered, "Why? Why me? I am dirt. I am nothing." The human's jaw clenched. He looked at the villagers who stood at a distance, watching. Some laughed, pointing fingers. Their voices carried in the wind. "Look at the fool," one shouted. "A human wasting food on trash." Another sneered, "He can take her. Let him carry the burden. She's cursed." Their words cut the girl like knives. Her eyes lowered again, shame flooding her heart. She wanted to crawl into the ground and disappear, but the human did not look away from her. His eyes burned with something fierce, something the villagers did not understand. "You are not dirt," he said. His voice was low, but strong. It was not for the villagers, it was for her. They laugh because they are blind. They do not see what I see. The girl's lips trembled. "What do you see?" she asked in a whisper. He leaned closer. His answer was simple. "A life that matters." For a second, she forgot the hunger, the cold, the laughter behind her. She only heard his words. They wrapped around her like a blanket, unfamiliar, impossible, yet real. Her chest tightened, as if her heart was trying to beat again after being silent for too long. The human stood up. He offered his hand, his voice steady. "Come with me." Fear rose inside her. His kindness was dangerous. If she trusted him, maybe he would betray her later. Maybe he would throw her out like everyone else. Yet when she looked at the fires of the villagers, she saw only more pain, more hunger. If she stayed, she would die. Her thin hand shook as she reached toward his. Slowly, carefully, she placed her hand in his. His fingers closed gently, not like a chain, but like a promise. He pulled her up. Steadying her weak body, she stumbled, but he caught her again, and this time, she did not flinch. The villagers laughed louder. "Look at the human, carrying garbage home." One shouted, "He'll regret it." Another cried, but the human ignored them. His steps were firm. His hand never let go of hers. The girl tried to walk, but her body failed. She could not keep up. Her legs dragged. Her breath came out in gasps. Finally, she collapsed again. Her body gave up. She lay in the dirt, whispering, "Leave me. I can't. I can't walk." The human knelt, his face calm, but his eyes filled with determination. "Then I will carry you," he said. Before she could argue, he lifted her gently into his arms. She was so light, as if he was carrying only a shadow. Her head rested against his chest. She could hear his heartbeat, steady and strong. The villagers' jeers followed, but they were distant now. The girl listened to that heartbeat, slow and constant. It was the sound of life, the sound of strength. Slowly, her eyes closed. Not from fear, but from exhaustion. For the first time in her life, she let go and allowed someone to protect her. The human walked through the cold night. Step by step, the stars above watched silently. The alien girl, once left to starve, was now in the arms of someone who refused to see her as dirt. And though she did not yet know it, this choice would change both their lives forever. The night grew colder as the human carried the frail alien girl in his arms. Her body was so light he feared she might break apart. Her face pressed weakly against his chest, and her eyes closed in exhaustion. Each breath she took was shallow. But steady, he tightened his grip, as if holding her life itself. The villagers watched from a distance, still laughing. Their fires burned bright, their voices cruel, yet the human did not stop. His steps were firm, carrying her away from their mocking eyes. Behind them, thunder rumbled far across the sky. A storm was coming. The road was rough, filled with stones and mud. The girl stirred weakly, whispering, "Where are you taking me?" Her voice was fragile, almost lost to the wind. He looked down at her and spoke with calm strength, to shelter. "Little one, you will not die tonight." Her chest ached at his words. For so long, death had been the only future she imagined. But this man spoke as if her life mattered, as if tomorrow could exist. She wanted to believe him. But doubt clung to her like the cold air. The storm rolled closer. The wind grew harsh. Throwing dust into the air, the human adjusted his coat, wrapping part of it around the girl's shivering form. His steps quickened as the first drops of rain fell. Soon the sky split open, rain pouring in heavy sheets. The girl gasped softly as the cold rain struck her face. She tried to hide her head against his chest. Her thin fingers gripped his shirt weakly. She whispered, "They will laugh. More. If they see you keep me." Her words carried shame, not anger. The human's jaw clenched, but he answered with quiet certainty, "Let them laugh. I do not live for their voices." Lightning flashed, lighting the path ahead. In that brief light, the girl saw his face stern, unshaken. His eyes looked forward, never turning back, toward the villagers for the first time. She wondered if strength was not in cruelty, but in kindness. At last, through the storm, a small wooden house appeared on the edge of the village. Its roof was patched, its walls simple, but to the girl, it looked like a castle. She had never been invited into any home before. The human pushed the door open with his shoulder. Carrying her inside, the warmth struck her immediately. A small fire burned in the hearth. Its glow painted the room in gold and orange. She blinked at the sight. Warmth, light, shelter. It felt unreal. The human placed her gently on a low bed made of rough blankets. She sank into it. Her body, too. Weak to sit up, her eyes darted around nervously, waiting for the moment he would throw her back out into the storm. Her voice trembled. "Why? Why are you doing this?" He knelt beside her, placing more wood on the fire. The flames grew stronger, filling the room with heat. He looked back at her, his voice steady, "Because no one should freeze and starve while others eat. Because you are alive, and that is reason enough." Her heart raced. She had heard many words in her short life, but never like these. Never words that carried weight. He stood and took a blanket, carefully laying it over her thin body. She flinched at first, but the warmth wrapped around her. Pulling a sigh from her lips she did not know she had. The rain outside battered the roof. Thunder shook the ground. The storm roared like a beast. But inside, for the first time, she was safe. Her eyes began to close, but she fought against it. Her fear whispered that if she slept, she would wake outside again. Thrown away, the human noticed her struggle. He sat down on a chair beside the bed. His voice calm, "Rest. I will keep the fire burning." She turned her head slightly, staring at him through tired eyes. Her lips trembled. "Will you send me out tomorrow?" His answer came without pause. "No." Her chest tightened. A single tear slipped from the corner of her eye, rolling down to the pillow. No one had ever promised her a tomorrow. The storm raged on, but its sound began to fade into the background. Of crackling fire and steady breathing, she pulled the blanket closer. Her body was still weak, but her heart felt something unfamiliar: safety. The human leaned back in his chair, keeping watch as she finally drifted into sleep. Outside, the villagers cursed his name, mocking his choice. They could not understand, but within those four walls, a starving alien girl was no longer treated like dirt. She was treated like life, and in that fragile moment, the storm raged against the world. She belonged to a shelter that was not only wood and fire, but kindness itself. The storm had passed by morning, but the world outside was still wet and gray. The alien girl slowly opened her eyes. For a moment, she did not remember where she was. She expected to see the broken wall of the abandoned house, the cold street, the mocking eyes of villagers. But instead, she saw a roof above her and a small fire still burning. She blinked, turning her head. The blanket around her was warm, softer than anything she had known, beside the fire. The human sat with his arms crossed, his eyes half closed, but still alert. He had stayed awake through the storm to watch over. Her lips parted, but no words came. She had no memory of anyone ever watching her like that, like she mattered. Her chest tightened with confusion. Why was he still here? Why had he not thrown her out after the night ended? The human noticed her stirring and leaned forward, his voice calm. "You're awake." She nodded faintly, her throat dry. He poured water into a wooden cup and handed it to her. She stared at it for a long moment, afraid it was a trick, but his steady eyes told her otherwise. With trembling hands, she took it, sipping slowly. The cool water soothed her throat. "You should eat," he said next. He reached into a small basket and brought out bread and a piece of dried meat. He placed them on a wooden plate and set it near her bed. The girl's heart raced. Her stomach growled, but her mind whispered doubt. "Why?" she asked softly. Her voice cracked. "Why do you feed me again? One night is enough. Now you can send me away." The human's face hardened at her words. "I do not feed animals one night and throw them away," he said firmly. "And you are not dirt. You will eat here as long as you need." Her eyes widened. His words echoed in her head like a bell. She picked up the bread slowly and began to eat in small bites. Each bite filled her with warmth, yet her hands shook. She whispered under her breath, "No one ever spoke like this to me." The human heard but did not interrupt. He let her finish, watching her with quiet patience when she was done. She leaned back against the blanket, her eyes moist. Her lips trembled with words she had never said before. "Thank you." The words felt strange on her tongue, but also powerful. The human gave a small nod, as if the thanks was enough. Hours passed. The rain outside softened. The girl grew restless. She was not used to stillness. Her life had been constant movement, from stones, hiding from anger, begging for scraps. Now, sitting in warmth, she did not know what to do. She looked at the human who was cutting wood near the fire. "Can I help?" she asked suddenly. Her voice was nervous. She feared he would laugh at her offer like the villagers did, but he turned, studied her, and then nodded. "You can start small," he said, handing her a small piece of cloth. "Clean the table." It will give you strength to move. Her heart skipped. He trusted her with a task. She crawled weakly from the bed, using the blanket to keep warm. With shaking hands, she wiped the table slowly. Each stroke of the cloth felt like proof she was not useless. The human said nothing, but his eyes softened as he watched. For the girl, the silence was not heavy. It was kind. Later, when she returned to the bed, her body weak again, she whispered to herself, "I am not worthless." The words were so quiet, yet the human heard. He did not correct her. He only placed another log on the fire, letting its warmth answer. That night, as the wind outside howled softly, the girl lay under her blanket, staring at the flames. The fear still lived inside her, whispering that one day he would change his mind, that one day he would send her back to the dirt. But another voice, faint and new, whispered differently. Maybe he meant his words. Maybe kindness was real. She closed her eyes. But before sleep claimed her, she turned her head toward the human and asked, "Why don't you laugh at me like they do?" The human looked up from the fire. His answer was simple, steady. "Because I see a person, not dirt, and no one deserves to be laughed at for living." Her chest ached at his words. But this ache was different. It was not pain, it was hope. Trying to take root, for the first time, she wanted to believe in tomorrow. And in that small wooden house, filled with whispers of kindness, the alien girl began to feel like she was more than the world had told her. Days passed, and the girl's face slowly began to change. The hollow look in her eyes softened. Her thin body, though still weak, found a little strength. She was no longer curled up in the dirt outside, but sitting near the fire inside the human's house. Sometimes she even smiled faintly when he gave her small tasks to do. But while the girl felt the first whispers of life returning, the village around them grew restless. People talked in hushed, angry voices. They did not understand why a human would waste his time, food, and kindness on a creature they all considered worthless. One evening, as the human went to fetch water from the well, a group of villagers surrounded him. Their faces were twisted with scorn. One alien man spat on the ground and said, "We see what you are doing, human. You bring that filthy girl into your home. Do you not feel shame?" The human stood calmly, his bucket in hand, his voice steady. "Why should I feel shame for feeding someone who is starving?" Another villager growled, "Because she is cursed. She was left to die for a reason. You think you can save her? You only invite her curse upon yourself." The human's eyes hardened, but his voice did not rise. "If kindness is a curse, then I will accept it." The words spread quickly, and by nightfall, the whole village was whispering. Some laughed cruelly, others shook their heads in disgust. They said the human was a fool, wasting food on trash. Some even plotted to drag the girl out themselves. The girl overheard the whispers when she went outside to gather wood. Children threw pebbles at her, chanting, "Garbage girl." The words cut her like knives. She dropped the wood and ran back inside. Slamming the door behind her, her chest rose and fell fast. Her hands shook as she whispered, "They will never stop. They will never let me stay." The human found her, trembling by the fire, her face hidden in her arms. He crouched beside her, speaking gently. "What happened?" She looked up, her eyes red. "They hate me. They want you to throw me out. They will laugh at you forever if you keep me here. Please. Please, let me go. It is better." For a moment, the human said nothing. He studied her fragile frame, her desperate eyes. Then he placed a hand on her shoulder, firm but kind. "Listen to me. You are not leaving this house because of their voices. This is my choice, and I choose you stay." Her breath caught. Her lips trembled. "Why? Why suffer? Their anger for me." He looked at the fire, his face shadowed by its glow. "Because they are wrong. They are blinded by cruelty. But I will not close my eyes. You are alive, and life deserves protection." The girl's heart ached at his words. A single tear rolled down her cheek, not of sadness, but of something she had not felt before being defended. The next day, the anger grew bolder. A crowd gathered near his house. Their voices loud, "Send her out. She does not belong. She is filth." Stones hit the walls. One even shattered a small window. The girl huddled in the corner, trembling, covering her ears. The human stepped outside, facing the crowd alone. His tall figure stood firm against their rage. He raised his voice, not shouting, but strong enough to silence them. "You call her dirt, but tell me what makes you better than her. Is it cruelty? Is it laughter at the weak? If that is greatness, then I want none of it." The villagers murmured angrily, but some lowered their eyes. His words struck deeper than they wished to admit. "She is alive," he continued, "and that is reason enough for me. I will not send her out. If you hate me for it, so be it. But know this, your hatred changes nothing." The crowd slowly broke apart, though their whispers carried venom. They were not finished, but for now, they stepped back. Inside, the girl stared at him with wide eyes. Her heart raced with a mix of fear and wonder. No one had ever stood against the village for her. No one had ever spoken of her life as if it mattered. When he returned inside, she whispered softly, "You stood against them." "For me," he met her gaze and nodded, his voice steady. "Yes, for you. And I will do it again, as many times as needed." Her chest tightened. She wanted to cry, but not from pain. Her lips formed shaky words. "Then, I will try to be strong. I will try not to be a burden." He gave a small smile, rare but real. "You are not a burden, little one. You are proof that kindness is worth more than laughter." That night, as the village boiled with anger outside, the girl lay near the fire. Her mind replayed his words again and again. She still feared the villagers, but deep inside, something stronger began to take root for the first time. She believed she might have a place in this world, not because the village accepted her, but because one human chose to see her as more than dirt. The days turned into weeks, and slowly the starving alien girl began to change. She was still thin, still fragile, but her steps no longer dragged as before. Her eyes, once empty and full of fear, began to hold a faint spark of life. The warmth of the human's house had given her more than food, gave her the courage to breathe again. Every morning she woke to the crackling fire and the smell of bread. At first she would eat nervously, still expecting it to be snatched away. But when it never was, her heart learned to trust. And trust gave her something new strength. She started with small tasks, sweeping the floor with trembling arms, cleaning the table with shaking hands. The human never mocked her clumsy work. He only nodded and said, "Good, you are learning." The girl's heart swelled at those words. For the first time, her efforts were not laughed at. They were seen, valued. One morning she carried a small bucket of water from the well. The villagers watched, whispering cruel things, but she held it firmly, step by shaky step, and brought it back to the house. The human looked at her proudly. "You did well," he said. Her lips curved into the smallest of smiles. At night, she sat by the fire, sometimes whispering stories of her childhood, stories of being abandoned, of hunger and stones thrown at her. The human listened quietly, never interrupting, never doubting her words. When she grew too emotional, he would simply place another log in the fire and say softly, "You survived, that makes you strong already." Her heart would ache at those words, but not with pain. It was the ache of healing. The villagers, however, did not stop. Their anger grew sharper. "Why does she walk in our streets? Why does she carry water when she should be gone?" They muttered. Some children tried to trip her, but this time she did not fall. She looked them in the eyes, held her head higher, and kept walking. The laughter behind her still hurt, but inside she carried the human's voice. You are strong already." One evening, as she was cleaning the table, her hands steadier now, she looked at the human and whispered, "I want to do more. I want to prove I am not useless." He studied her carefully, then nodded. "Very well. Tomorrow, you will help me cut wood, but slowly. We do not rush strength." Her heart raced. She had never been trusted with such a task. The next morning, he handed her a small axe. Her hands shook, but his calm voice guided her. "Grip it firm, swing slow, let the weight do the work." She tried, her first strikes weak and clumsy. The villagers who passed laughed loudly. "Look at the garbage girl pretending to work." They jeered, her face burned with shame. She wanted to drop the axe and run. But then she remembered his words, remembered his eyes that did not laugh. She raised the axe again, slower this time, steadier. The wood cracked just a little. Her lips parted in surprise. The human's voice was calm, but filled with approval. "Good." Again. She tried again and again until sweat dripped from her brow. Each strike was clumsy, but each strike was progress. The villagers mocked, but she no longer cared. She heard only the human's steady encouragement. That night, she lay near the fire. Her arms sore, her voice was soft as she whispered, "I am not dirt. I am not useless." The human, sharpening his blade nearby, glanced at her and said simply, "No, you are not." Slowly, her heart believed him, but strength did not only mean work, it meant courage too. One night, when the villagers gathered outside the house again, throwing stones at the walls and shouting curses, the girl did not hide in the corner as before. She stood near the window, trembling but standing. She whispered, "They cannot break me. Not anymore." The human looked at her, silent for a moment. Then a rare smile crossed his face. "Yes, they cannot." The villagers shouted threats, promising to drive her out. But the girl, though still afraid, felt a new fire in her chest. She had lived through hunger, through shame, through nights of cold and cruelty. And now, with a single human standing beside her, she found a strength greater than their hatred. The human knew it too. He saw it in her eyes, in the way she no longer lowered her head when the world spat at her. He had given her food and shelter. But she had taken something more important, dignity, and, though danger still lurked, though the village's anger had not ended, the girl was no longer the fragile creature curled up in the dirt. She was learning to stand, to fight silently with her will. A new strength had been born in her, and the villagers who once laughed would soon realize that strength could not be crushed by cruelty. The tension in the village reached its breaking point. For weeks, the people had watched the human protect the alien girl. They mocked, they shouted, they threw stones. But nothing changed. She still lived. She still walked in their streets, and she was no longer the weak shadow they once laughed at. Now she carried water with steadier steps. Now she helped chop wood. Now she looked them in the eyes when they spat at her. The villagers hated it. To them, she was supposed to remain dirt, worthless and forgotten. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky in red, the anger of the village finally gathered into action. A crowd of aliens marched toward the human's house. Their faces were twisted with rage. Their hands carried sticks and stones inside. The girl was cleaning near the fire when she heard the noise. Her heart froze. She looked to the human, fear filling her eyes. "They're coming," she whispered. Her voice trembled. "They will take me. They will hurt you." The human stood, tall and steady, his face calm. His hand rested on the wooden door. "Stay here," he said. His tone was firm, not cruel, but protective. "No?" She cried suddenly, her voice louder than ever before. "I won't hide, not this time." Her thin hands clenched into fists. Her eyes shone with a strength that had grown inside her. If they want me gone, they will hear me, too. The human looked at her, surprised by the fire in her voice, for a moment. He saw not the starving child he had carried through the storm, but someone reborn. Someone who had found her voice. The door rattled as stones struck it. Shouts filled the night. Send her out, she is filth. Human fool. Throw her away. She has no place among us. The human opened the door, stepping out into the sea of hatred. The villagers fell silent for a moment. Their torches flickered, lighting his face. He stood tall, his voice steady as he said, "You have shouted long enough." The crowd growled. One man stepped forward, pointing his finger. "She is dirt. She will bring curse on us all. Why defend her?" The human's eyes burned like steel. His voice thundered across the crowd. "Because she is alive. Because she is not dirt. Because no one deserves to be thrown away like trash." The villagers muttered angrily, but before they could shout again, a small voice rose behind him. The alien girl stepped forward, her thin figure trembling but unbroken. Her voice cracked, yet carried through the silence. "I am not dirt," she said. "I am not worthless." The villagers stared, shocked for the first time. The girl they had mocked was looking at them without lowering her head. Her eyes shone with tears, but also with strength. "You left me to starve. You laughed while I cried. But she pointed to the human, he gave me food, he gave me warmth. He saw me as life, not filth." Her words cut deeper than the human's. Because they came from the one they had tried to erase, some shifted uncomfortably. Unable to meet her gaze, others shouted louder to hide. "Their guilt? She lies. She will poison us." The human stepped forward again, his voice unshaken. "Enough. If you will not see her as a person, then you will see this." He placed his hand on the girl's shoulder, firm and steady. His words rang like iron. "She is not dirt. She is not cursed. She is my family, and I will protect her." The crowd gasped. His declaration carried weight. A human, strong and feared, had claimed the girl as his own. No insult, no stone, no cruelty could erase those words. The villagers' shouts weakened. Some turned away, angry but uncertain. Some whispered that perhaps the human was mad, but others saw something they could not deny. They saw a girl once starving, now standing with fire in her eyes. They saw her chosen, not abandoned. The night ended with the crowd dispersing, their anger unresolved but their power broken. The girl stood in the doorway long after, her legs weak but her heart racing. She turned to the human, her lips trembling. "You called me family." He looked at her calmly. "Because you are." Her eyes filled with tears. She had dreamed of belonging, of being wanted, but never believed it could be real. Now under the quiet stars it was, she whispered. "Then I will never leave. I will stay. I will be worthy of this." The human gave a rare smile, small but strong. "You already are." Inside, the fire burned warm. The girl sat near it, no longer trembling from hunger or fear. For the first time in her life, she felt chosen, not by blood, not by chance, but by humanity. And in that choice, she found her new name, her new place, and her new strength to face the world.